Hey there, friendlies. Welcome to another live stream. Let me try that again. Hey there, friendlies. How's up? Welcome to another live stream. This is the 16th of June, I think, and tonight we're just going to talk about stuff, knives, cooking stuff, beer, tools, I guess. Whatever really rocks the show for you. It's just muting the YouTube page there. So I guess without much further ado, we should get on with it. I do also want to say that if you do watch this time shifted to tomorrow or next week or something, thanks for watching. That still helps me a lot. Foxed Outdoors, how's it going? Nice to see you around. A little bit of housekeeping. I have an alternate setup for live streams where I'm not doing interviews or panels. I did not have the time to organize that this week, but that's good because it means that we get to do the Streamlabs, which I mean StreamYard. So if someone wants to come on and chat, they can do that with my new setup for the solo streaming that so far is an impossibility. We'll see how it goes. Hey there, Tyler. So I don't know. I got beer. I got blades. We're talking about bushcraft. Excuse me. Oh, my seasonal allergies are something fierce. So, you know what? Believe it or not, this is my favorite axe. Weird, right? It's not like it's nowhere near as iconic as the small forest axe. This is an exciting axe to take out and use, even now, even after years and years of owning it. This is a very comfortable axe for me. The logo is covered up by this leather collar, but it's all transfers all the time. It's a very exciting axe. It's very, very useful, very handy, one-handed or two-handed. This is a new discovery of mine, as you guys know. I haven't had it very long, but I do dearly love it. It's got a great shape to it. The head is designed very intelligently, good heft, good weight. It's a nice mid-range between carving and camp tasks, which is why I guess why they call it the camp carver. But this was my first good axe. I bought this when I was, excuse me, when I was just discovering Swedish steel. It was cheaper than the Gransfors of that size. It was very handy at the time. I didn't really know what I was looking for, but I did know that I wanted an affordable way into Swedish axes because I was discovering whether or not they were all they were chalked up to be, and they really, really are. This is a fabulous little axe. Is it as good as the Gransfors in this size? Maybe, maybe not, but it doesn't matter. This is my axe. It's gone everywhere with me for years and years and years. This was my first handmade axe, and when you buy handmade, as you guys who have the Gransfors or the Wetterlings or Huskies know, no two axes are the same. There's a very light curve down here that isn't on all of them. This is way pointier on some of them than on others. In the other room, I have two Scandinavian forest axes. One of them comes to a real good point here, and the other one is exactly like this, rounded over, This axe comes with me in my bag no matter what. And I take it out, and it's familiar, and it's been there for me for a long time. So even though this is not the most useful axe, it's very, very context specific. I really love this axe. That's my favorite one. For no logical reason. It's just pure familiarity and comfort. But this axe is my favorite axe in terms of the the excitement of holding something that is deservedly iconic, in terms of the sheer number of things I can do with it, right? Context is everything. I don't think you can really have favorites without context. Some people are like, yeah, this is my favorite blah, top, pinnacle, whatever. Don't ask me to defend it. I don't have to. It's my favorite. To me, favorites are very context specific. So, whereas this little Wetterling's hand hatchet or hand axe or whatever the heck they called it, little 10-inch handle is my favorite in most contexts. It's just so exciting to take out of the bag, to get swinging. This is like catching a little bit of the Ramir's Quicksilver, you know? It's a great axe. This one is still very new, but I definitely love it dearly. Is it going to be a favorite? In some contexts, very likely. The extreme jack of all trades nature of this axe, you know, part carving, part camp axe, opens up opportunities. It may show weaknesses in other areas once I've used it for a full season, but right now, with the small amounts of use that I've been getting out of it, doing my backyard bushcraft because we're all, you know, trapped, I haven't found any problems with it yet. I'm not used to this shorter haft, but it, you know, the fact that I can really choke up to do some more carving related stuff more than makes up for that. This is my favorite bush knife. There's no reason why I should love this knife like I do. I don't like plastic. I prefer wood. It's a convex grind, which I have very little experience with. I'm on record as saying that I'm all about Scandi grinds. But I love this knife for the same reason I love that small forest axe. This is an iconic knife. This is a knife that has stood up to a lot of abuse, both in my presence and in a wider sense. It's ugly, but I love it. The Zytel sheath is much better than either Kydex or leather if it gets dumped in water at -40. This will not jam up nearly as much as the other two. You're still going to have to, you know, reef on it a bit, but you know, I'm also a carbon steel guy, and this is stainless, but it's the content. Sorry, it's the context. This is my shoreline knife or my Arctic knife. In another way, this is my favorite knife. This is my first actual bushcraft knife. It's made in Australia. As far as I know, last time I checked with the maker, this is the only Campbell in Canada. There are a couple in the States, and I don't think he's making them anymore, so this is probably going to remain the only one in Canada. Okay. Unlike most Woodlord clones, this one has very square scales. A little bit of the Morse Kohansky philosophy at work there, because as you guys know, as some of you guys know, Morris is on record as saying, you know, get a square, get a square handled knife, because then you pick it up, you're not even looking at it, but you know the orientation. My experience has borne that philosophy out quite well. I put the lanyard on myself. Because again, it's all about context, right? Your first bush knife, of course, that you're going to have a soft spot in your heart. I chose the desert ironwood. I chose the liners. I prefer yellow, but that was going to be an upcharge, so I took the black. Scandi, right? I'm all about Scandi. Would I trade this in for a jacklore? Hell yeah, because I've wanted a jacklore for as long as I've had this knife. But this knife has taken a beating, and it's just been there. I mean, I can do that with many of my things. You know, this is the chow set that I use when I'm camping or out in the bush. There's no knife that comes with this. These are titanium. So I either have I have an Opinel number 8, or this little white, this little mini Nesmuk for my food prep. You know, I've shown most of you guys this knife before. I love this rough little thing, this like peasant ass knife. I love it. I love the fact that it is a peasant looking knife. It's simple, simple as hell. Okay, it's curly maple, but I mean it's dead basic, and I love that because White's entire thing is making knives that are kind of historical, like trade knife looking, and I like that. You know. And when I bought this, these were $55 US, and on I think it was Bushcraft USA or a knife forum somewhere, someone was selling them for 55 US with a sheath that he had made. So I was like, yoink. You know, sheath's getting a little dinged up, but I don't care. I like it when your stuff starts to look used. I don't have like locker queens or whatever they're called, wall hangers. I've got a bunch of stuff on this desk, you know, to talk about. And because as I said, I didn't have time to set up my solo live streaming setup. If someone here wants to talk about their favorite tools or cooking stuff, whatever, I am going to drop an invite in the side. As I always say, no politics, no guns, and for God's sakes, stay on topic. But these are tools that I've had for a while, except for this beautiful council tool. I've had most of these tools for a while now, and some of them have cool stories, like the F1 I got from one of you guys. Well, that adds something to it. That makes it favorite on another context, you know. This is a great knife. Is it one of my favorites? No, because it's just a Mora. It's a Mora with a full tang, which I think is cool. Because that's what I required to be willing to spend $100 on a Mora. It had to be full tang, and this is a great knife. It's a great knife. Again, it's stainless, which I'm not really known for loving, but it's a fabulous knife. Good edge, sharpens well, but it kind of sits between my Woodlore and my F1 for me, right? Because it's all Scandi and everything, but it's got the ugly plastic thing happening. You know, I don't have a million knives because I don't see myself as a collector. I don't have a million axes because I don't see myself as a collector. I definitely have more axes than knives. Partly because I can't resist, you know, doing restorations and stuff. But like I say, you know, I don't own something that's not going to come into the bush with me, at least on occasion. That's why, you know, that little Moormaker saddle cruiser that I had with the red handle, Instagram giveaway, because I was like, this is not going to come into the forest with me. I'm not at ease enough with a grinder to reprofile this axe, so gone. You know, I have a little Norland saddle cruiser, which I have taken out. It's okay. Excuse me. I would like to trade it with someone for one that doesn't have a handle. Excuse me while I pour the beer all over the desk. Oh, piss. I'm just going to put that down. You know, there are certain things as well, like you guys have seen this pot on a lot of my videos. It's the only pot I have. It's a Morris pot. I have a lot of curiosity about the zebra pot. I would like to get one, but this pot does me really well. So can I justify the expense for a zipper pot? I don't know. Maybe at some point. Maybe when I'm monetized again, but right now, I'm not lacking anything. I feel that if I was to bring out more family members to bushcraft trips, it might be a little small, right? This is the 1.9 liter. But for just me or just me and Camille, it's fine. I'm just going to take a moment here to say hi to everyone who's joined me tonight, joined us. Wow. The gang's all here, eh? We got Foxit. I've already said hi to you. Tyler said hi. Hey, Grace. K-Bone's here. Nice. Excuse me. Simon, of course. Hello, Simon. What's the purpose of the leather piece wrapped around the handle near the axe head? That's an overstrike collar. Okay, so if you're splitting, everyone has missed and hit here instead of here before, and if you don't have anything on that, it's real easy to start splintering up this part of your haft. So these overstrike collars are almost like a sacrificial element that they get dinged up so that the axe handle doesn't necessarily. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a pretty damn good one. See, I've already got a little bit of. There we go. I've already got a little bit of dingage there and there. You know, but better the handle, better the collar than the handle. You know, and some people do it with metal. Some people use paracord. Some people use leather. Hey, Tenenbaum's here. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm a little late. A lot of people are answering what the Hey, Mike Morton's here. How's it going? For those of you who don't know, Mike Morton's got at least one really, really nice knife by Deering. Someone Deering. Great knives. Little rich for my blood, but very, very nice work. Let me just see. Hey, Old North Southpaw's here. How's it going? Derek Lapointe, hi. Up North of 60, how's it going? Man, I missed, you did a live stream Q&A, I think it was, a couple of weeks ago, and I missed it. Sorry, dude. Because I spend my days half working and half taking care of the girls, I end up working pretty late at night, so I've missed everyone's live streams. I haven't even seen Canoe Hound's live stream in weeks. But yeah, I saw that you were streaming, but I was working at the time. Where's Serge, by the way? There we go. So this is Eco-size, which means Scottish. So I guess it's a Scotch ale. It's a I'm translating here. It's a brown ale inspired by Scotch ales. It's round, sweet, and I have no idea what Moellers means. Moellers. I don't remember. I had 2 gins before coming on tonight. Flavors of caramel, noisette, it's hazelnut, and English toffee. Okay, 5.5%, straight up normal Canadian beer, 473 mil. As She Missed is a microbrewery in Joliette, Quebec, since 2001. Let's give it a taste. Scotch ale E, but very, very lightly. I get the caramel. There's a burnt toasted coffee thing happening in there as well. That's good. I'll buy it again. And it looks so fabulous all over my desk, too. Now, Tyler said something that is very true. The only thing scarier than an overstrike is missing by swinging shy. For many of my axes, things around like, this length or even my small forest axe, most often I will get on my knees to chop, specifically because of what Tyler says here. Before I learned that trick, okay, let's face it, before Ray Mears showed me that trick in one of his videos, I once did miss and um, cut the shin out of my jeans, but just missed my skin. And that kind of left me not shivering or shaking or anything, but shaken, I guess. Because if you don't know better, you can think you're doing a really good job and still pop your kneecap off or gouge your shin, and you require like 10 stitches. And you learn from your mistakes. You learn way better from your mistakes than you do from your successes. I get that. But when the mistakes come with stitches or casts or something, I would rather learn by osmosis or by proxy, Good. Hey, Pine Martin's here. I wasn't sure you were going to make it. I saw some pictures of you out there in the fabulous green world. So welcome. Where was I? I'm just checking. Okay. So do you guys all know each other then? Derek, Pine Martin? But yeah, so... Oh, hold on. Oh, up north of 60 says his... I'm going to see if I can find that quote. You're a big fan of the Essie knives. Your main carries an SE5. That's a pretty cool knife too. I like my knives to have a 4-inch blade. I kind of feel that I should explore that more. Like I should try a 3-inch blade. If Mike Morton's still on, you like a 3-inch blade, don't you? Drop a note if I'm wrong about that. But I seem to remember us talking about knives, and I think you said you prefer a slightly smaller blade. I feel that if I had something larger, like a 5 or a 7-inch blade or something, I'd be too tempted to baton. And as anyone who's been watching my channel for a long time knows, you baton with a Canadian belt knife by Cold Steel. That's just never going to get old, is it, guys? But I do feel that as I head into the future, that maybe I should vary it up a bit, because like all my dream knives, they're all around like a 4, maybe a 5-inch blade. I really want that Tamagami. The carbon, well, I would take either, but man, that knife's been on my bucket list for a long, long time. I want the straight up Jack Lore, his standard, on my bucket list even longer. It's like all the knives that I really, really like the looks of. The Castrum, Lars Felt knife, dream knife, man. But it's also, I think it's around a 4-inch blade. So it's like, why would I get any of these to have a fancier version of a knife I already have? Because being an avid non-collector, that's the way I would see it, I very often, excuse me, I very often bring it back to my old story that I've told you guys about my bass guitars and how over the past 15 years, I've gradually whittled it down from like 4 to 2. Because I realized that I was going out the door time and time again, and there were 1 or 2 that just never left the house. So why not pass that on to someone who's going to love it and use it, then leave it gathering dust in my corner? So now with these 2, there's a 3rd one that I would really like to have one day. But aside from that, once I get there, if I bring one in, something's got to leave. And I kind of feel that I'm at that stage with my knives. Like, if I was to get the castrum come in, I wouldn't necessarily get rid of one of these guys. And this is like a cold dead hand knife, but one of like I might get rid of one or two of my moras to make room for it. I've got like 3 or 4 moras. I don't need that many knives. I keep knives around. Like, I'll always take an extra or 2 on a trip if I'm going with someone I haven't done a lot of bushcraft with. Remember when I first started going to the woods with Serge? He didn't have a good bush knife yet, so I just passed him a mora. I tried to give it to him and he refused, and then I just kept giving it to him to use. But aside from stuff like that, why the hell would I need like 8 knives? It's because some knives are really, really nice, and they're very, very um, desirable. I'm not going to die if I never get a jackalour, but I really want a jackalour, you know. But yeah, so up north of 60, your taste is Essie. That's a good solid knife. They're not fancy, but they don't have to be. Somewhere, Simone probably mentions his Groman number 4, but I'm way behind. Hey, Canoe Hounds here. How's it going, Mister? How was your stream today? I was just talking about you before because I was saying how because of my work situation now I don't actually get to see anyone's streams anymore. Dennis, I'm just talking about my favorite tools, and I've put the invite out for anyone who wants to get on and talk about their favorite bush tools, provided they don't talk about guns and they stay on topic. I'm putting it again. You know, oh, you took a night off tonight, Dennis. Interesting. I didn't know that you ever took time off unless you were taking a trip or something. But like bush tools to me can also mean like, you know, you have an old Coleman 2-burner camp stove. I actually have an old Coleman 2-burner camp stove, and I love that thing because of reminiscence. Because we had one when I was a kid. Because I recognize the smell and the sound of it going. Phew. I talk about this in a bit in I think the video where we were in the boreal forest a couple of years ago. Stuff that reminds you of simpler times can very easily become a favorite for no reason other than that, and that's legit. You know, I have a very fancy camping cook set that we take whenever we go glamping or car camping, but I sure as hell like this simple little thing a lot better. And it doesn't have any of the functionality of like that cook set. It's an MSI or something, MSR, MS whatever. I don't remember what it is actually, but it, you know, it's got a big pot, a frying pan, clip-on handles, little cups, like, oh, you know, it's just the whole kit and caboodle. So it's very useful. It's got even like a strainer and a cutting board, I think. But it doesn't have the same association with like roughing it and sleeping in the back country, like in the bush, that this does. This simple little, you know, design hasn't changed since God knows when. This old Royal Canadian Air Force inspired pot. Look at it. It's, well, look at it. Look at all that crap. That thing's beat to hell. That's after washing, right? But I do love this pot. I love this thing too. I want a new one of these because I don't really know when you ding the hell out of enamel. See back down there? I don't know if taking the coating off of, like, the enamel off of this means that boiling water in it to consume is not a good idea. I don't know. I tried reading up on it, and there were like more opinions than there are people in the world. So I would dearly like to replace that with a new one, but it seems that Falcon and Emelware is not making them anymore. So that's too bad. Because this is a fabulous package. This is great. This is a time-honored design. They've been making this thing forever. Man, I saw on eBay one from the 50s or the 40s. Very similar design, except that the handles were a lot like thinner. But you know, I love the timeless aspect of this, and the fact that man, this is definitely, you know, you pull this out, and everyone's gonna say, "All right, governor, hello, Ramirez." You know, because this is like the most British thing ever. This is specifically made for bush tea. They call it a tea can. So sometimes I just pop it out for the comedy, you know. uh, no, Dennis, no. Um, Hold on. So Dennis and Martin, I'm just anyone who wants to come on and talk about their gear, their favorite gear, can come on. I just keep dropping the invite down. No one's grabbed yet, though. Yeah, there's this thing that I have a very specific philosophy about gear, and this hits on the stuff that I use in the bush, and it hits on the stuff that I use to make the videos. I Sure thing. You're absolutely welcome. Um, my streams are always better with you on them anyway, Martin. Um, I like, as you guys know, I like old fashioned tools. I like stuff that doesn't have too many moving. One of the things I like about the axe, I've actually never really thought of it this way, but axes and knives, I like tools where I'm the only moving part. So I like hand saws better than circular saws and stuff. Um, and I don't like to have stuff that's too hoity-toity. This is sort of going more into my video editing and shooting stuff. You know, like it goes into this philosophy I have about what I call TV 2.0. And some of my favorite YouTubers feed this thing. Okay. I don't know how many of you guys have ever watched Peter McKinnon, but he has, well, more before than now, but no, that's not fair. He has in a small way influenced the way I shoot my videos and edit them. Um, I think he's a great guy. He's like, he, in some ways, he is the absolute epitome of the Canadian um, cliche. He's very friendly and everything, but his gear is so expensive. He was a professional photographer and filmmaker before becoming a YouTuber. So, like, you know, he uses a Canon DX1 Mark II or three or whatever it is. It's a $6,000 camera. So of course, you know, he gets buttery smooth, slow motion and everything, and sharp, sharp, sharp. You know, and hey, Martin, um, but that's not what YouTube is. You know, and whenever I see like an iMac Pro on someone's desk in the back of their footage, it's like this is all TV 2.0 stuff. This is stuff where people at my income and who are not monetized, we can't compete on that. So we have to really make sure that the storytelling is right. Peter McKinnon has the storytelling down pat as well. And I look at guys like Casey Neistat, who he was just rolling in subs before he had any fancy cameras. Really, he used the same cameras I have somewhere, right? And so I always, in all things, like to keep my look. I would love a Northman axe, right? But I'm not going to die without it. I would not buy a $6,000 camera to shoot YouTube videos with because it's different. That's me playing into the TV 2.0 thing. next thing you know, I have like an iMac Pro, and then next thing you know, I have a studio in downtown, and I've hired someone to do my editing for me. No, what I like about what YouTube was, and for me still is it's me shooting, giving it to you guys, no intermediaries. It was a little soapboxy, wasn't it? Sorry, guys. So we got Martin on. Although I'm not hearing you. Have you said anything yet?
No, you were speaking. I didn't want to interrupt. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you were out in the woods. Dennis was out in the woods.
Yeah, we both just got back last night. He was in Temagami, and I was. I'm not sure where he was in Temagami. I don't know if he was in the park area or in the Crown Land areas, but
yeah.
He was there for, I think, well, all weekend. Got back last night, 9 p.m. He says, and I got back late yesterday afternoon. I was there for 3 days with another friend of mine. We were doing social distance camping, which is a new experience for me.
That. Yeah,
yeah.
I saw that.
So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would still do it, right? I would totally do that.
Yeah, it's possible. You just need to take precautions. We drove there separately to the put-in. We had separate solo canoes. We paddled separately. We never got right up gunnel to gunnel. We stayed a few feet apart.
Yeah.
Sometimes much further apart. There's some big lake crossings. It was 5 portages and about half a dozen liftovers as well. And normally, if there's room for 2 canoes, you both line up your canoes, you both get out, you take out your gear, and you help each other. In this case, it was just first man gets to the takeout, he takes out, moves his canoe out of the way, the next person goes in. So we just gave each other plenty of distance. When we passed each other on the trail, we would move aside for each other. When we made camp, we pitched, we of course slept in separate tents, but we brought all separate gear, separate cooking implements and stoves, separate food. We cooked our meals separately. My buddy kept cooked his meal outside. I had a bug shelter and I had a little twig stove, so I was cooking my meal in the shelter. And my shelter it's a bug screen. It's a tarp. It's the Eureka Parrowing VCS shelter. So it's a big tarp.
Evan has?
Yeah, that's the same one he has. Yeah, and they've got a new model now called the No Bug Zone. This is the previous generation of the same product. So the walls are 8 feet by 8 feet. So it's an 8 foot by 8 foot square, but diagonally, corner to corner, if you sit in the opposite corners, you're 11. The corners are 11 feet apart. So it's very easy to maintain a distance of 6 or 7 feet at least in there, which is what we did. So we were able to eat together and get out of the bugs and relax and talk, and read or do whatever we wanted without being on top of each other and yet still being away from the bugs. So it was great. Oh, and the shelter has 2 zipper doors, one in each corner. So he had his entrance and I had mine. And
nice.
Yeah, it was really great. It felt a little peculiar at first. There was a kind of artificiality to it because normally, you hand each other stuff here, hand me your axe, hand me your this, But there was none of that, and we weren't sharing any of the gear.
Right.
But it worked. It was great. We had a wonderful time. Hours and hours of conversation and companionship out in the bush and sharing experiences and exploring together, taking pictures and videos and all the rest of it. All the fun of a camping trip. Minus the sort of the handshake and the hug at the end of the trip. That's the only thing that was sort of missing for me was, shaking my friend by the hand, giving a hug goodbye before he headed out on the road. But otherwise, it was the same old thing. It's great.
Sounds great. I mean, yeah, weird because of the way the world is right now, but still, I mean, just the smell of the forest. Oh, Simon is asking for the name of that tarp again. He might. I think Simon's about to look it up for us.
Yeah. Okay. It's a really good product. In fact, it is the most important piece, the single most important piece of gear I bought with respect to canoe camping, other than a canoe. And it's called because it extends your camping season. You can camp in bug season. And
you're in bug season now, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Late May, throughout June and early July is bug season. Right now is really bad. Mosquitoes are out in force. Black flies are slowing down, but we're in the overlap period where you get both at the same time, which is nasty.
Oh, that's fun, right?
Oh, it's just glorious, especially when you got to go to the bathroom. But I've got a way around that.
You got it worked out.
Yeah, well, yeah. You just get like a bug mesh, like a mosquito netting.
Yeah.
You just wherever your latrine is, you string a line over the latrine between a couple of trees or something like that, or
Oh, okay.
and then you drop your mosquito netting from there,
Yeah.
from that line, and then you're fine. You're not trying to get off the pot as fast as possible. You can
Right.
enjoy yourself, relax, and do your business with experiencing too much bug stress. So the product, for the shelter, it's made by Eureka, and it's called the older generation that I have is called the Parawing VCS, which stands for Variable Component Shelter. And they had a 13-foot tarp and a 16-foot. I have the 16-foot. And so it consists of 3 parts. You don't have to buy them all together. You can buy 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
So it's a tarp with or without poles. I didn't bother with the poles because I string everything between trees and stakes.
Right.
And then a bug mesh. So it's like a roof, no-seam bug mesh, and then 4 walls that come down. And it just clips in under the tarp itself. And I've had that for something like 20 years. And I can't believe I've had a tarp that I've used. I mean, I make small fires under there. I have a twig stove under there. Yeah. And I have never burnt a hole in it. I've never burnt or torn a hole in the mesh. It was really, really good quality. I don't know if it's the same quality today. And the UV has not destroyed it. And I've had other tarps and tent flies that have been destroyed in the same time by UV. It has not. It's held up beautifully. So I have no intention of parting with it. They have a new product now, a new version of it that's called the No Bug Zone.
Yeah, I think Simone just put the link put the link up for that.
Yeah, the difference with the No Bug Zone is it's quite a bit smaller. I think it's a 13-foot. That might be the biggest one they have, but I could be mistaken on that. But it has no roof, so you have a tarp, and then you have 4 walls that are sewn right to it. So there's no mesh roof, but you have a tarp as a roof, so the bugs still can't get in. So it's more compact that way. It's lighter and less volume when you pack it. But the walls go right to the edge of the tarp.
Okay.
So I think it's more of a square or diamond-shaped tarp, whereas the one I have, it's a parabolic cut. You know how so the edge of a tarp can be in an arc. Yeah. That's how it is on my tarp, and the walls are set in from the edge of the tarp. So when it rains, the mesh isn't wet down from the rain. So I think I like the old design. It's a little bit heavier and bulkier, but I like the old design. So.
And it's Eureka, so I imagine it's not cheap.
No, well, it wasn't cheap then. I don't think it's cheap now. In fact, I think the old model that I have still sells for more than the newer No Bug Zone. But I mean, it should. There's more material, so it should cost more.
Yeah. I'm just taking note of it to see what. I mean, Simone put the link for the new one, but I'm very interested to know what that old one really looked like.
Okay. I have a review of it. If someone is interested, they can go to my YouTube channel, the Pine Martin channel, and just look up Eureka VCS or Eureka Parawing VCS. It's there. Yeah. And I have a detailed review. I show myself stringing it up and how it's all put together. And what's nice about it is it's a true shelter. I mean, you can walk through it. You can stand up in it and walk around right down the center line. And there are 2 corners that are lower, perfect for storing gear or if you're sitting on the ground or something.
And what I like about that is, it's not a tent. You can just have your sleeping bag or a cot under there and sleep like on a warm night with a good breeze.
Yep.
That sounds fabulous.
Yeah, if you're not in tick country, then you don't need a floor, so that's perfectly okay. Although ticks, I just read this morning a news article about how a tick was found in Sudbury that was infected with Lyme disease. They've gone that far north. I've never seen a tick up here. I live in Muskoka. It's hours south of Sudbury, and I have yet to see one. But if they're in Sudbury, they're here too. So
yeah, I've seen them in Alberta. We're starting to get them around here as well.
Yeah, they're really spreading. It's very unfortunate.
That's because of the global warming.
That's what they're attributing it to. Climate change for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on record as being a climate change believer. I'm sold on it, and I live my life.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah. Dennis says he bought the No Bug Zone 13 last week.
Did he
Nice.
use it, Dennis? Did you use it on this last trip? I hope so, because it should had to have been buggy where you were.
John Doe Outdoors. Hey, how's it going? I think we're about to hear from Dennis what he thought about it.
Hey, how you doing, fellas?
Hey,
All is well. Good to see you, man. Good to hear your
Yeah.
voice. I haven't heard you. I haven't been watching anyone's live streams lately, so it's good to hear you.
Let's see your turn. Well, thanks. Nice to hear your voice too.
Yeah.
So sultry and sexy, you know.
Well, it's all the mic, dude. It's all that. You know. Hi, welcome to the live stream.
unlike mine.
Wrong channel there, Jess. Wrong channel.
Wow, this is getting awkward.
Yeah.
No, but really, did you use that No Bug Zone with you
Well,
on your trip?
interesting story. I bought one because my buddies from Kid Products had one, and the thing was awesome last year when we went camping up in Algonquin, right?
Yep.
So I went to my local outfitters there last week, there just the day before I left for the trip, and I picked up the 13. And on my second day of the trip, I went to set the thing up, and I was unsuccessul. Reason being, it was windy as can be, and I was windbound on the island, and I hung my my ridge line, right, and I got my my prusik knots all ready to go and everything, so I could just toggle it off and tie it off, and all it did was turn into a giant parachute. I couldn't even get the pegs in the ground. Like it was that windy. And then I could have put it up the third day, right? But I figure why, I'm leaving in the morning anyways. So we just toughed out the mosquitoes and the black flies.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So on the model that I have, if it's really windy and stormy, you don't have to worry about bugs, right? And so what I've always done when that's happened is I just drop the mesh. I just unclip the mesh and take it off, so that my tarp can be extended and I don't have this wall of mesh that's getting blown around and dusting, which no doubt was a problem that you encountered. So now I know that on your model, the mesh walls are sewn to the top of the tarp, right?
Right.
So, but can you roll them up or clip them up to sort of get that?
I honestly can't answer that. I do not know. I don't think you can with the way it pegs down, and even the way because there's no poles for this whole thing, right?
Right. No, but you'd pull any pegs, right? Because on mine there are pegs that hold it down, right? But if there's big winds coming, you get that mesh out of the way because that mesh is just going to cause your shelter to get blown around like crazy, right?
Exactly. And the spot where I was trying to set it up was like totally exposed. Like it was there was no shelter from trees or nothing. It was
right.
Open, right? And I spent like 15 minutes holding this thing from actually picking me up off the ground like a parachute. So
two things. First, I just want to say that Simo, for everyone else, has found the link to Pine Martin's review, so it's in the side chat there. Definitely take a look at it. I'm just gonna click on that for later.
Thank you, Simon, for doing what I should have done myself. I'm not the best
really good at that.
Content. I'm not very good at promoting my own content.
Yes, welcome to my club. But the other thing I wanted to ask is, does the current one, Dennis, have the option of with or without poles as well as the old one?
Yeah, you can buy an extra pole set for it, but I would never buy the poles because you could always find a couple standing dead trees that you could take down, or something like a couple thin pines or something that you can utilize.
That's if you're not just stringing it up between trees.
Yeah, but I would think the easiest way to set it up, like I had the ridge line all set up, I had it all toggled out and everything. I just could not get the pegs in because you go to put in one peg. And it doesn't work great on the Canadian Shield. Let me put it that way, because you can't put pegs in down, right?
Oh, that brings to an important question. So I was in an area of Muskoka Parry Sound, and what we have here is what's sometimes called Muskoka topsoil, which is about that thick.
Yeah,
it's mostly moss and pine needles on top of granite, right? So you don't drive stakes in, right? Very well, but the one that I have, when the walls come down, there's like a little skirt, a flap of material, same material that they use the tarp at, right? And so and we put rocks on it and gear and paddles and driftwood logs or whatever to weigh it down, and so that works. I've done that many times.
It does. It does have the skirt. Yeah,
it does. Okay. So that would have worked. I mean, if you weren't in a wind, you probably could have got it set up easily, and it would have withstood the wind.
Oh, no doubt.
But just setting these things up in the wind can be really, really hard. So
that was the issue. 100%. Yeah, it was. Like I say, we had it set up. We had one set up last year with the Boys and Kid products, and we were using it last year in Algonquin. No problem. We had it set up at 2 different campsites. The one campsite we actually use for like the slope parts where it comes down the 2 corners. We actually stood up a couple of paddles, wrapped around it a few times, and guide off of that, right? So that worked out perfect for that type of thing.
Yep.
But
Tenenbaum just said something interesting. I suppose the poles might be nice for a far north river trip.
That's what they're intended for.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Above, if you're above the tree line and there's just not going to be any trees that you can string from, you need the poles, and then you need lots of rocks to guy out those poles, right?
Well, the poles for this new system have to be. You need 7-foot poles according to the instructions.
7-foot poles.
7-foot poles. So the tent or the no bug zone sets up, the 13 anyways, sets up optimally at an 8-foot ridge line. So if you set up a ridge line, it needs to be 7 feet high for the sides to all lay properly and hang properly.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I also
8 feet.
8 feet. I also want to point out what Hike with Mike. By the way, for those of you who don't know, his channel is nice too. It's good stuff. A lot of just sort of thoughts while showing great paysage landscape. Sorry guys, I'm just but he says Canadian Shield, that is hardcore. It's just not wrong.
Literally hard. It's the hardest.
There's no pegging into that.
No, it's all granite.
They had this, they had that topsoil layer like that, and there was a lot of moss on the ground too. And you think, oh yeah, I'm going to be able to stick this thing in. No.
But when you're, because I very rarely camped where I can't get stakes in. Sometimes it's hard as hell. But I've only once or twice not been able to get the stakes in, so I've had to deal with rocks and stuff. Now, I've always found that getting the tension you need when putting rocks down is a whole lot harder than when you're just pulling the stake and then pounding it into the earth. Mm-hmm. Do you guys find the same thing, or do you guys have tricks for that?
Yeah, well, what I do, usually you are guying out from loops that are on your tent or your shelter or your tarp, right? So you tie a piece of cord from that loop out to the rock. Don't put the rock far from wherever it is, right? Put it fairly close, and then you use a tensioning knot like a taut line hitch so that you can adjust. Because what happens is these things slacken, or if you get a big gust of wind, it might flap and that might shift the rock a little bit, right? Yep. Unless the rock's really heavy or the log. Wherever possible, I use roots, tree roots. Often, because we're in Canadian Shield country, roots extend, they're growing over things. They're just barely in the ground and out of the ground. Roots are amazing. They hold really fast. So I will be attaching something to spruce roots, pine roots, juniper bushes. That's what we did on this last trip. There were juniper bushes. I guide out my tent to the juniper bushes because those are hard to pull out of the ground. So
fair enough.
That works really well. So you just attach to anything you can. So on my shelter, for instance, I often have, in fact, I did on this trip as well, have sections of rope, just cordage, off those loops. And I'm either going to use them or not. And sometimes I can use my stakes. And if I can, I use a stake. And where I can't, I tie off to a root or a rock or a fallen tree stump or, whatever I can. Using the cordage that's attached. Those cords stay on my shelters always. So whenever I have to deploy it, I have an option.
Yeah.
I was just going to say heavier rocks.
Yeah.
Right.
Heavier rocks.
Heavier rocks, yeah. Oh, well, another trick is...
with the roots is a great idea.
Yeah, but 2 rocks works especially. People don't realize that. But if let's say that my shelter wall is, I'm trying to get this angle right here. Okay, say my shelter wall is here, and I'm trying to guy out, from here to there. I'll put a rock way over here, far away, like a foot or 2 feet away, and I'll guy out to that. Then I'll put another rock
On the
in
line.
between the two, right? And that makes all the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, it really holds things fast.
Interesting.
Yeah, John Dole, yours is asking a pretty good question about the fire bans in Canada. We're not experiencing any yet, thank goodness.
We had fire bans for a while because of the COVID thing. They didn't want anyone camping. They didn't want anyone going outside, so they imposed a fire ban. Also, they didn't want first responders to be bothered with that. And of course, the province that I'm in, Ontario, that Dennis is in also, they spent something like $200 million in forest fire last year. That's a lot of money. So the province doesn't want to have to spend that kind of money. So they had a fire ban that went on for a long time, but they lifted it, and so we had plenty of rain recently, so we didn't have to worry about fire bans. So I didn't actually make a campfire. I usually cook on a twig stove these days. So I did that. I used I have a little Firebox Nano stove. You're familiar with it, Jesse. You have the same one.
Yep.
I use that in my shelter. It's a very, very tiny contained fire. It's like the world's smallest campfire, but it cooks your food, boils your water, and the smoke sort of just drives off all of the mosquitoes that get into the shelter. They just flee to the outside of the shelter as far as possible,
And do you choose smokier woods for that matter, for that purpose, or does it just sort of happen?
No, what happens is when you're starting the fire, there's always a bit of smoke, and as it starts to go out, there's a bit of smoke. It doesn't take a lot of smoke to create a little smudging effect that drives the mosquitoes away.
Yeah.
But I always burn hardwood if I can. But where we were, it was nothing but pines. We were on an island, fairly large island, but it was nothing but white pine and a couple of birches, and the birches were all alive. So all we had was pine, and actually, I think I saw a spruce, but it was living, so we didn't take anything from that. So just nothing but white pine. So,
Sorry, I was going to ask, do you really believe that burning punky wood or anything really does anything for mosquitoes? I don't find it does.
Oh, smoke drives them away. Absolutely. I mean, I have a bush property surrounded by Crown land. I go out there routinely, and on my property, I have a little hearth that I made. Just basically 3 rocks. And I'll make a fire, and I'll go there in the buggiest of conditions, and I'll string up my little tarp. I have a small tarp, about 8 by 10, and I'll string that tarp up, and I'll start a fire under there, and the bugs are all over me. It's terrible. I have to wear a bug hat and all the rest of it, and gloves, while I'm preparing my fire. Once that fire goes, I just let it be smoky at first, right? I'll throw some green grass on it, anything to create a cloud of smoke. That drives the bugs out. All bugs, it's neurophysiological. Smoke makes them dopey and stupid. It interferes with their nervous system, and it drives them away. Little smoke coils, I don't think does crap. Those little coils and things, I don't think that does anything really, except keep them away from the coil itself. But if you let smoke fill up under your tarp so that you're going like that, and then let it clear out, the whole area reeks of smoke for quite a while. And then off comes the bug hat and the gloves, and I can cook and sip my coffee and sit in my chair and relax under the tarp, and the bugs leave me alone. And when they start to come back, which they inevitably do, 40 minutes later, they start coming back and they get thick, create another smoky fire. Just throw something in the fire to make it smoke, and that drives them out again. And wash, rinse, repeat. Just keep doing it.
Yeah. Hike with Mike says, down here in the south, pine is all we have for burning in the backcountry, and it burns up real quick. Every once in a while, you can find some oak, but mostly softwoods. Now, I have a question about that, because I burn a lot of birch. But do you find, I'll often use pine or spruce or something to get the fire going, because I find it's really good for that. But if you want something that's going to burn for a long time, I mean, you both know this. You want like an oak or a maple or something to just keep the fire going. But do you find that cleaning your stove out is a lot harder after you've been burning a bunch of resinous woods like pine and?
That leaves a lot of soot.
Yeah, a lot of soot and a kind of a accumulated resin. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Let me show you my Morris pot here. I just got back, and I don't actually clean my pots, you know. So this is my full cook kit here. There's just no way to do this. I can never figure this out. So this is my full cook
Let me
kit
see if
here.
I can.
Let me move it.
There we go.
Oh, thank you. There we go. Thank you so much. Yeah. So this is my full cook kit, which is just a Morris pot and then a little stove, and then some other pots nested inside.
Did you end up getting the same Morris pot as me, by the way?
No, I never did. I stuck with the
big one.
The big one, yeah. So I mean, this thing is caked with this resin on it from this last trip because all we had was softwood, right? Yeah. I mean, it's thick. It flakes off in big chunks, like peeling paint. And then this is my stove. This is the Firebox Nano with a little steel case to hold it in. So I try to burn hardwood because this is a very, very tiny twig stove. Yeah. And I don't want to have to keep feeding it. So if I have an option, I'll use hardwood because I don't have to feed it as much. The coals last longer, they burn slower, they burn quite hot, and it's easier to get it going again. So if it starts to die down, the coals stay hot. If I use softwoods, resinous woods, conifers, it goes through really fast. But birch is useless. Birch is a hardwood because it really is dense and heavy and hard, but it burns up like that.
It burns like a softwood, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't use birch. Well, I mean, there's no advantage to burning birch.
See if you can find birch that's not dry or punky. It's either wet like green or it's punky, right?
Yeah, it's actually hard to find fallen birch that isn't rotting because the bark.
Because of the bark, yeah. So
it doesn't dry. It doesn't dry.
Yeah.
Hey, Dauber.
But hey, Outdoor Daubers here. John Doors asks, is a firebox stove considered okay during a fire ban? In my opinion, it's a contained fire and is safe.
No, it's
here
not.
in Nova Scotia, I'm not sure.
It's not. So the rules, there's a lot of controversy about that. So, but the rules are actually fairly clear. So a twig stove, there is no twig stove that is permitted in a fire ban. But they don't specify kinds of stoves. What they say is the rules are specified in terms of function. So a stove is permitted in a fire ban if it has a shut-off valve, some way of shutting off the fuel, or a lid that can snuff out the fire. So when I go camping, gas stove, whatever, naphtha, all of those things. So my twig stove.
Alcohol.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so I bring a Trangia stove with me, and it fits inside.
Oh, hey, Outdoor Dauber.
So I bring my Trangia stove, just my little Trangia burner.
Oh, I know what you're about to do.
Yeah, and it has a lid that lets you snuff it out.
Yeah.
And the rules specify it has to have a cutoff valve to shut off the fuel, or it has to have a lid that can snuff out the fire. So this is good. So I bring this with my little
inside,
and I put it inside. So now my little twig stove serves as my pot stand and windscreen for this thing. So I bring this, and I bring this much alcohol, and so that if I'm stuck in a windstorm or something like that, and everything is soaking wet, and I can't find dry tinder or kindling, and I really want to have a cup of coffee or a hot meal, I can just use this. And if there is a fire ban in effect, then I'm going to bring my twig stove with this, and I'm just going to have to carry more fuel. That's all, because that's the fuel I'll be allowed to use.
What kind of bottle are you carrying your fuel in there, Martin?
This is just a little Nalgene bottle, and it doesn't leak. This is just.
How many Nalgene bottles do you have, Martin?
I have every kind of Nalgene bottle. I have 1 liter Nalgene bottles. I have a Flexi flask that collapses. I have a couple of those, one I drink out of and one I pee into. So I don't have to get out of the tent in the middle of the night.
You pee into it and you drink out of it? Same
bottle? No, I have, well.
Clarification there.
Well, he has a very good dishwasher at home.
Well, you laugh, but so I have one of each, one for drinking, one for peeing.
Yeah.
On many an occasion, when we needed 2 flasks of water, I just very thoroughly rinsed out the pea flask and filled it with water and drank from it, as did my wife. We're just not squeamish about that. You know,
Well, and let's
if you
face
don't
it,
want to drink, if you don't want to drink out of my very, very thoroughly rinsed pea bottle, I totally get it.
and there's a magic to the Nalgene, right? It doesn't impregnate with anything.
It doesn't hold odors. Yeah. Now these are the soft plastic ones. They can take on some odor. Okay. So if you put like soap in this or some dish soap or something like that in this, it will retain that odor for a while. But the hard ones, you know, like the 1 liter bottles, like they don't retain odors. And the Flexi Flask materials, they don't seem to retain any odor either, because I've had some with wine in them, I've had some with spirits in them, I've had some with just water in them, and I've never noticed an odor. They discolor, but so like if you were to fill it with coffee, you'd stain it brown, but it doesn't seem to retain odor. But Nalgene sells all kinds of little tiny things, much smaller than this and bigger than this, and big round containers for rehydrating things in, and you know, you name it, and they're good. None of them seem to leak, so I'm a fan.
What fuel are you using in the alcohol stove?
This is just methylated spirits. So you go to Canadian Tire,
jug of it,
and just get a big jug. Yeah, go to the paint thinner section and ask for methylated spirits, and they have it there, and it works really well.
Have you ever tried, Martin, using the Espit tablets? Espit little fuel?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
This weekend. I thought I'd bring them. I didn't bring any fuel with me. I just brought my kid twig stove.
Right.
And all the rest of my cooking was done over the open fire, like right on open flame. But I did bring, just on the in case, I go, I'm going to try these Espit tablets, and they work perfect with that stove. I got a pot of water boiling there, maybe half a liter or a little better, right, for my oatmeal coffee, and it worked fine. I ended up using 2 tablets. They stink.
Oh, do they?
They have they have sort of like a almost like a sulfury, not intense, but a sulfury, like somebody just poofed a little fart out there, right?
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. I guess that's the best way to describe it. But yeah. So, but they worked awesome. You know, they're totally encapsulated too, right? So you have to actually break the seal, like a foil seal on it.
Oh, I didn't
so
know
you
that.
have a bit of waste that you have to carry out with yourself as well. But I thought they worked great, and they're great to have if you you don't risk spillage like you do with an alcohol burning stove.
Right.
Yeah. Is there a way to sort of snuff them out so that you don't waste them, or do you have to wait for them to burn off completely?
Nah, you gotta. I think you pretty much gotta let them burn right down.
Oh, okay.
And they burn for a good 10 minutes.
Hike with Mike says he loves the Espit, but the soot is horrible. Did you find the same thing?
What I had with mine, because I put it on the bottom of my twig stove. I flip my stove over, and it's the perfect height for the like distance from the flame to the pot.
Yeah.
And it burns, and it burns. It almost looks like it melts as it burns. Like it has a waxy compound to it or something. Yeah. And when it does that, it does leave a crusty soot, but you can actually scrape it off. Like I use the sticks that come with the twig stove to scrape this residue off, but it's scraped off, like I say, almost like it was a wax, like a waxy buildup type of thing.
Okay.
So, and the soot itself, I just clean it like I would normally clean my pot or whatever, and it worked out fine. I wouldn't use them all the time, but they make a great backup, I think, if you get into a situation where, it's been pouring rain and you can't find any wood. I know you could always find twigs and stuff at the bottom of pine trees that's dry and stuff, but if you get that situation where you can't, and you got a couple of these Espit tablets, you got a way to cook, right?
Yeah, you can always find dry wood, but very often you have to hack, chop away a lot of wet wood to get down to the dry stuff. That's a lot of work. And sometimes, but the real problem with that is sometimes you go like, I got to put on my raincoat, my rain pants, go outside. I'm still going to get somewhat wet, come back. Then I got to bring a lot of wet gear under my shelter. I'd rather just stay under my shelter, stay dry, wait out the rain, and cook with something other than, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. I mean, the smart thing to do is collect enough dry material so that you have plenty, so that the next morning when you wake up, you have plenty of it, under your tarp. in an empty pack, under your, like a waterproof pack or something like that, in your in an extra barrel, under your canoe, whatever. Just make sure you've got dry stuff secured before you go to bed, because even when you wake up in the morning, the dew, like, people don't appreciate this. Backpackers don't often sort of appreciate the wetness of conditions when you're canoe camping. When you're on a lake, that mist, that beautiful mist that you see in the morning, right? That's 100% saturated air, and it rolls over the land, and your tarp on the outside and on the underside is soaking wet, and the ground is soaking wet. There's no dry pine needles in the morning; they're soaking wet, and even under the tarp, right? It's just like this. It's like an invisible, imperceptible rain has washed over all of the ground in the morning, right?
He got soaked. It didn't even rain, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I mean, it dries quickly, but until it dries,
you're not having your coffee. Yeah,
you're not having your coffee, exactly. So always make sure that you have stuff sort of secured. So I will often take. I have a canoe pack, a waterproof canoe pack. So what I will often do is, on a canoe trip, I'll take some dry material, and I'll just throw a bunch of twigs and sticks and dry stuff that I haven't finished processing. I just throw it in there and roll it up and put it away, so that in the morning I've got a stash of completely dry material. And
that's fair.
Yeah, especially when it's cold and damp, and you're sleepy and groggy, and you want to get that coffee going.
Absolutely. At the hunt camp, when we had a hunt camp, it gets pretty cold in October, November up there. And so what we used to do is we had like an old McDonald's tobacco tin, the metal one you screwed on.
Yep.
And we'd put a bog roll in there, a toilet paper roll, and fill it with methyl hydrate. And light that, because when we're in our cache, whatever the hell a cache is, a little blind. Oh,
yeah,
it's a blind.
Hunting blind,
and freezing our arse off. Well, you light this stuff and it doesn't create a smell that's going to scare off the deer, right? The methyl hydrate, it burns with no smell. Essentially, the toilet paper acts. It sort of acts as a candle wick, so that it doesn't all just burn away too quickly. You just got to make sure you don't sort of kick it over or anything, because that could get really,
yeah.
Ha ha ha. And so ever since then, but like, I don't know if methyl hydrate maybe burns too quickly if you don't have a toilet paper roll in it.
Hey, Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Nate's here. Oh, he's packing, so he's probably going to take a trip.
He's leaving tomorrow morning.
I told Nate I was going to stop by and see him on my way home yesterday, but I was passing through Huntsville right around 6 o'clock, and I figured by the time I get into the store, they'll be just closing and stuff, and it's like, keep going.
We should have met up and had a coffee or a beer or something like that.
Yeah, I wish I'd have known that, man, because you sounds like you were just getting home about that time, right?
Yeah, just before that, actually. I actually, around that time, I was probably in the shower or something like that, so I was still unpacking,
Yeah. But so we got to plan a weekender, Martin, this summer?
Yeah, no, I would love to do that, actually.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I have a couple of Crown Land routes in mind, and something we can do.
Sweet.
Something that's very manageable in a weekend.
Yep.
I still sort of have this desire to get out there this year at some point. When I'm allowed to cross a provincial boundary without, spending 14 days all by myself.
What's going on with you in Montreal there? Are they easing up on you guys a little bit now, or what?
Yeah. Look, remember one thing. This is outside the scope, and it gets a little political, but our premier used to be the CEO of an airline. So everyone he knows is a businessman. So of course he's under pressure to open everything up because his friends need their money. But like, you look at everywhere they've started opening up, and cases just shoot up. So like, even when they fully open up the province, I'm going to wait 14 days or maybe 3 weeks before I really consider it opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure, because I know people in the medical community who are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they all say, listen, wait 14 days after it's fully open, and then it'll be a little safer, which will probably be just in time for the second wave in like September, October, right?
Yeah.
I'm laughing because otherwise I'd be crying.
Right now we just they just opened up they call it the second phase in our area down in Niagara, and but that's not until Friday. It doesn't start happening until Friday because our down here in the Golden Horseshoe, right, which is like from Toronto all the way down through Niagara Peninsula.
Yeah.
They opened up everywhere else for phase 2 except for our areas, pretty much in Ontario.
Okay.
So, and now after a lot of bitching by like Niagara Falls and Hamilton, and they said, okay, you can have your phase 2 this Friday, but Toronto and I guess Peel region and stuff like that, a few of the areas around there are still phase 1. So,
yeah.
Jess, by the way, my invitation extended way back last winter still holds. So if you're ever released from your prison and you're able to make your way up this way for a weekend or something like that, I'm sure we can arrange something, a short canoe trip or something like that.
That would be the weekend we could do something, Martin.
Yeah. Oh, all three of us. Yeah, had considered.
Yeah, and maybe throw Nate into the mix if he can swing it, right?
That's right. Yeah, but I mean, if it has to be a social distancing thing, I don't know how to do it with 3 people. So my shelter will hold 2 people, comfortably at 6 feet or more apart, the bug shelter, and my tarp. But once you get more people, it gets a little tight. So I don't know if we could do it, but maybe the social distancing rules will be relaxed sufficiently that we could go with 3 or more people. That would be fine with me as well.
We'll wear masks.
Well, it's just
ventilators. We all lugging these ventilators around, breathing through them.
Yeah.
Well, I can bring my bug-free zone too. We just need a bigger campsite.
Oh, well, there you go. That's right. You just need a big campsite. Yeah, you don't want to be on separate sites yelling at each other, texting each other.
Because, like I say, I bought this thing and I was nice enough to bring it in with me about 20 kilometers and back out about 20 kilometers. I took it for a nice ride, right?
Yeah. Well, you could say you took it out,
Yeah, I took it out.
Just imagining 2 of these things, 2 different, campsites. Like Marco.
Yeah. But I'll give everybody a word of advice. If you buy anything that's new gear, test it out at home first.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm not even talking about the Eureka Bug Zone. I got this. Has anybody ever heard of East Hill Outdoors? It's a company that sells outdoors gear on Amazon, right?
I have one of their sleeping bags.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because you and I got that same sleeping bag.
Yeah, we both did videos, right?
Yeah, they had sent me also a backpack or like a cooler backpack, which is fantastic. But they also sent me one of their complete hammock setups, right? Similar to my Hennessy Hammock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was packing, I was debating: do I bring the Hennessy or do I bring this one here to do a review on, right? So I got my kitchen scale out and I'm weighing these things, and this thing's like 1.5 pounds lighter than the Hennessy Hammock, and I'm thinking, that's what, maybe I'll give this thing a try, right?
Oh God, okay.
It worked. It worked, but I did not, needless to say, and I hope they're not watching because I don't want to slander them or anything, but you know what? Save your $100, people. It's flimsy. It's very the zippers are like little tiny zipper pulls on it compared to the Hennessy, which like you got this toggle you can pull type of thing.
Yeah.
The one night I went to bed quite early because I was up early in the morning, and long story short, it was still kind of light out when I went to bed, and I could see the light through the fabric of the material. It's that thin and flimsy. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not something that's going to last for a long time. I should have tried it out here, maybe at my day camp or something first to check it out. It was just, it's not my Hennessy Hammock. So I can't write a review on this thing and give it you know what I mean? A poor showing, right?
Well, you could.
Yeah,
well, I've done that before.
I think you're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had an odd experience. So I have a friend who's a YouTuber. He's a good YouTuber, but his content is really good. I don't want to say who he is because I don't want to potentially embarrass him, but he makes great content, does a lot of product reviews. And he was sent some gear from a company. I mean, he gets a lot of gear sent to him, and he does these reviews. And he got one that was a tent. It was some Chinese company. It was it was a knockoff of a very, very good tent. The MSR Hubba Hubba. It's a tent that you and I had, Jesse.
It's a
Anyway,
fabulous tent. I'm so
it's a
excited
fabulous
about it.
tent. I mean, the quality of that tent is really excellent.
Yeah.
It's expensive, but it's an excellent tent. Well, this was a knockoff of that tent. It looked so much like it. And so when he got this, he was really impressed with it. Oh, look at that, the double stitching, and it looks really great, and it did look great. And so he read off some of the stats. I thought, boy, that sounds even lighter than mine. Mine's really light. And I did some digging, and sure enough, it's the same tent. It's probably made in the same damn factory overseas by the same people, but they're using a much cheaper fabric, a much looser weave. It's not as strong. And what people don't appreciate about tents, what keeps the water off of the fly and from seeping up, from that bathtub floor, hydrostatic pressure, is the quality of the coating inside and outside, and the density of that weave. And if it's not, then you're going to get wet. You're going to get wet from above and below. And so to the eye, it's a beautiful tent, and you got it for a third of the price. But you're going to pay a price for that when you get up there in a bad storm, right? Like in a light rain, you won't know. I mean, you could stand there for 20 minutes with your garden hose soaking it. You're not going to notice, right? But in a true torrential downpour that goes on for hours, right? Every tent leaks under enough pressure. They all do. I mean, it's got to be pure plastic, right? Otherwise, it will leak. Anything that's got a weave is going to leak eventually. So it's just a matter of how good the fabric is. So I felt really bad because he gave this a glowing review, and I composed this very diplomatic and tactful message saying, "Hey, I don't know how to tell you." I didn't put it in the comment because I didn't want to embarrass him, but I composed this message to him and was about to hit send, and then I realized, I'm going to make him feel so bad because he hadn't considered that, right? So I think that was a mistake. I probably should have sent it, although it seems like the moment has passed now. It would seem rather foolish to send it to him now. But I remember at the time thinking, should I send this? Should I not? I didn't want to alienate him or embarrass him or anything like that. But it was a terrible review in a way because he will have encouraged people to buy this piece of crap.
Yeah.
And somebody out there is going to get a wet sleeping bag in the middle of the night. So if you're camping in your backyard, it's no big deal. If you get wet, you go inside. But you're out in the bush, and you're days and days away from home. When your gear gets wet, it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's why when I got my Hubba Hubba, it was I was not going to take it into the bush until I had camped with it in the backyard at least. Just because I had gotten one that was new to me rather than brand new. I just wanted to make sure that all the parts were working and stuff. And I didn't have to worry. The tent's perfect, and anywhere there was a little rip was repaired by the person who gave it to me. And he's in the chat here, but I don't know if he wants me to use his name. But the tent is fabulous. And it sets up so easily. Like, it's the diametric opposite of that big honker that I used in all my camping with Camille videos. That big 6-person tent that takes forever to put up, and we're putting poles together and wait, what was the color code again? This little thing. I mean, it's a 2-person tent. Camille's unsold because she can't dance and twirl in it. But are you kidding me? We get to the campsite, but boom, tent's up. Such a good design. Designed by someone who knows, rather than designed by someone who's putting out, $150 tents.
Yeah.
It's such a difference. It's a massive difference.
Quality gear is where it's at, right? Like, talking about that hammock, it's great for maybe somebody who's not a heavier person. I weigh 220. And I felt like at any point it could tear open like a pair of blue jeans, right? When you bend over, it's like whoosh, ripping at the seams. That's how I felt. So you lay very still, and then add to the mix my 48-pound Springer Spaniel who sleeps in the hammock beside me. Yes,
Right.
it is possible. It is possible. And there again, it's compared to my Hennessy, which is made for a bigger person. Like I got the XL, and it gives me that much more space. This hammock didn't have that, so we were quite compact in there. It was quite tight, right? So had I tested it beforehand, it would have been, I would have known definitely, no, don't bring this hammock.
But it sort of feeds into what Tyler has spoken to before, right? Tyler Rodriguez, who's been on here, about the whole, the cycle of poverty thing. You buy the $150 hammock because that's what you're going to afford right now.
Yeah.
And it may tear and you'll be buying another one next year, but you still are spending 150 instead of 600 or whatever, depending on what. I mean, my Hennessy hammock was nowhere near $600, but you know what I'm saying, right? You just keep buying. It's like for the longest time, my wife and I bought that stupid, whatever that Canadian Tire brand vacuum was, the Shark, because we were throwing like $80 at a time at this thing, and every 2 years we throw another $80. But at some point, you got to sort of look, if we spend $400 now, we're not spending it again. And I see that like a lot of people can fall into that when it comes to outdoors gear. They'll put up with a little extra weight. I would put up with a little extra weight, but sometimes they're putting up with seams that are not properly, that are not double sewn, or Velcro that just, you use it 8 or 12 times and then it's kind of not attaching anymore, or all those things that you get when you buy cheap because, well, we're going camping in a month and I can't afford a really good sleeping bag or whatever. It's all those purchases that hold you over until you can afford X.
Yeah, I'm of two minds on that because I love the philosophy of buy the right thing, buy it once, have it for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
I've got a lot of gear that, especially a lot of clothes that's like that. And like I bought a Filson wool jacket. I mean, it's going to outlive me probably unless I'm unlucky and do something stupid to it. So I try to buy the best gear that I can afford, and I don't have extravagant tastes or hobbies or anything like that. My idea of a dream vacation is a long canoe trip. It's not a cruise somewhere. It's not staying in a hotel in some exotic place. It's just heading out into the bush, not too far from here necessarily for a couple of weeks. So that's pretty cheap once you've paid for the gear, right? So I can afford to because I don't have expensive tastes and habits. But the thing is, when you start off, you don't know what's good gear and what's not.
Yep.
And you don't know what you ought to pay for and what you ought not to pay for. And so people, when they start out, they tend to buy a lot of gear that they don't need, that no experienced camper would ever buy. They buy a lot of stuff that they think they need because it's the kind of thing that they would need at home.
Yeah.
And you don't need that. Like I can think of a lot of examples, but no need to get into the examples. But the idea is people tend to sort of move into backcountry camping from car camping, let's say, right? So they do car camping. They go from the kitchen to the backyard barbecue to camping in a campground from the back of their car, basically. And then when they go into the backcountry, they're schlepping in, a tray of water bottles because it doesn't occur to them that they could get a filter or they could boil their water. So they're packing in water and stuff like that. And so they're bringing and buying things that they absolutely don't need because they don't know. And so they end up buying a lot of crap that they don't need, and they don't know what is the value in something expensive. So it's not that they're just going cheap. It's that they don't see the point in spending that much on a canoe pack, right? And when we started out, my wife and I, when we started out canoeing, we had backpacking equipment. We had good backpacking equipment. We weren't going to go out and buy canoe packs. We had perfectly serviceable backpacks. We're just going to line them with garbage bags, which works tolerably well. Every once in a while you rupture your garbage bag, and you hope the hell you don't soak your gear by rolling the canoe before you get home to change the bags. But that's what happens. You sort of end up in these intermediate stages of moving from one style of camping to another style of camping, whether it's from a less experienced to a more experienced style, or from moving from one style of camping entirely, like backpacking, to canoeing, and you don't want to just throw that stuff away or buy all that gear all over again for a different style or tradition of camping. So I understand that, because I've certainly made all those mistakes. So it's not because people are foolish very often. It's because they go, what on earth is the advantage of having something that is half a pound lighter? Who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
And I also want to say what Brandon Cosman here said. By the way, welcome to the stream, Brandon. He said that at first I was getting cheaper gear because there was a lot of stuff that I needed. Once stuff needed upgrading, that's when I started to spend more money on items. Gave me time to figure out what I liked too. That's pretty much what my experience is as well. You know, car camping with my dad and using whatever bloody axe you got at Canadian Tire kind of thing, and sort of amassing the base gear, and then as stuff wore out, because when you buy cheap it wears out. It's like, okay, I know that I like this style of thing, so I'm going to spend big on that. This whole Yuga didn't work the way I wanted, so I'm not buying one of those again. I'll get something else. I'll change it up. I mean, I think it's legit, you know, to buy cheap when you're just figuring out and you realize that, no, I'm going to have to replace all this gear pretty soon. The danger happens when something fails on you when you're in the bush, though.
Yeah,
There are certain things that, like right up front, I think maybe spend some money on.
Yeah, I mean, it's seldom a danger. I mean, I think if you've got a crappy tarp and that fails, and you're caught in rains, like if you go out to Canadian Tire and you get the cheap blue tarp with the grommets, right? Those grommets will rip out in the first big wind, the first really violent gust, which usually is the headwind of a storm coming in. So it usually rips right away.
Yeah, and then you're a few.
And then and then people don't know the trick. Well, how, now that the grommets are ripped out, now what do I do? How do I secure my tarp? They have no idea. Now, of course, there are tricks. You use the pebble and the thing, and and you wrap it around with some cordage and stuff like that, and that works better than the grommets, which is what you should be doing if you have that kind of tarp. Don't use the grommets. But except for something like a tarp or a tent, practically nothing in the way of a gear failure is going to be critical. Very few things. If your backpack sort of rips out, well, it's inconvenient. You got to sort of, you have to tie a bunch of things together and pack it out very awkwardly. Carrying it like shopping bags, which is going to suck. But it's not going to endanger you. But I mean, you don't have a shelter in the rain. You don't have a tent to get to that'll keep you dry, or you don't have a tarp to huddle under. Well, you're in for
you're in for
bad time and possibly hypothermia.
Yeah, miserable.
But for that, yeah.
I always tell people too, Jess, like Brandon's talking about, buying cheaper gear and stuff like that. Take full advantage of like birthdays and Christmas and Father's Day and stuff like that. If they ask you, what do you want? Don't be shy. Tell them, say, you know what? Here's my itemized list of the things I want. And you probably can't afford them, but an MEC or an REI gift card.
Yeah, that helps.
Go towards that big time.
Yeah.
Not even the Canadian Tire gift card, because the Canadian Tire, you're going to get the cheap Hagen or Woods or, the cheaper brands that are the ones that are going to fail you when you're out there when you need them most likely.
Or they're very heavy. Yeah.
Or tell them you want a gift card. The things for the things that you really want. Then you can go out and buy your good Hubba Bubba, or you can get yourself your good MSR stove, or you know what I mean. Get the good quality gear, because if you buy that once, you're like, chances are you're not going to have to replace that for many, 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 many years. My MSR stove is probably 25 years old. Works as good today as it did the day I bought it.
So it's paid itself back.
Dennis, I'm curious about your stove. So do you still use an MSR stove, a fuel stove, or do you tend to use a twig stove? Because I know you're the unofficial ambassador of the kid stove.
Yeah. You know what? When I do my big August trip with the guys, sorry, I got all this frame here. When I do my big August trip with the guys, that's usually our week-long canoe trip, and there's anywhere from 4 to 6 guys. We'll bring the MSR stove just solely because we're cooking for 4 or 6 guys. If I'm doing a solo trip, like I say, this time around, the only fuel I brought was I brought 6 Espit tablets with me because I wanted to try them out. But other than that, I used my twig stove and the open fire to cook on. So I reduced for solo tripping. I reduced the weight of carrying, a bottle or two of white gas, right, or not fuel, and it was kind of nice because, like, all my cooking. And I find it's a lot less setup. You just put your stove together, find yourself some twigs, get that fire going, and you're cooking like boom right away. MSR, you got to purge it and you got to pump it and they're a lot more work, I find.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's neither. Yeah, I could see myself not using my MSR stove as much now that I've really taken to using the twig stoves. I kind of like that, not carrying fuel. It's all around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what's a fuel bottle weigh? If you get the 1 liter, and I think I got the 1.5 liter bottles, like canisters for the white gas, and they're, you're looking 1.5 pounds to somewhere around there, right, of a bottle.
Interesting.
And if you're carrying that for cooking for 4 guys or 6 guys, we're bringing, on average, for a week-long trip, we'll bring 3 full bottles of fuel.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, because while we're flying,
this is about as much fuel as I bring.
Yeah.
Well, last year my wife and I went on a 9-day canoe trip, and I thought, well, there might be occasions where it's really windy and it's hard to get a twig stove fire going or a campfire going. So I either had a twig stove fire going or a campfire going. But I brought this just in case for those rare occasions where it's so windy and gusty and cold, and we've got to get a dinner on, and that was it. And this is on a 9-day trip, and we never used it, and it rained 5 out of the 9 days we were there. In fact, we were windbound in storms the last 3. Still never needed it, because if you build your tarp shelter right, unless you get unlucky, you can still have a good campfire going, which we did. So this is really just a backup. So ever since I decided I'm going to get good at campfires and for cooking, and I'm going to get good at using a twig stove, I don't bring fuel anymore. This is it, pretty much. Sometimes I'll bring a little more than this, but that's usually, the saying, you pack your fears. What you're worried about. You end up packing that. Well, this is one of my fears, so I always bring this, and I probably shouldn't bother, but I can't help myself. That's
you don't bring it is when you're going to need it, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
In some ways, it's good to be a belt and suspenders type of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I have this problem. Like the guys I travel or I do my canoe trip with in August, which is like our big yearly trip, doing it for like 35 years now, is nobody wants to do individual meals. I'll bring my twig stove and I'll cook my dehydrated pasta or shepherd's pie or whatever. No, it's always got to be an organized meal for every single night, right? And there's usually 1 or 2 people that end up cooking, right?
and the ones who know how. The ones who know how to cook.
Out of ease, it's easier to have and carry that excess fuel. Like we quite literally, and now this is going to sound stupid. You guys are probably going to laugh at me under your breath, but we quite literally carry a kitchen bag, which has just the stoves. We carry a barbecue grill just in case, and it's just got like all that shit. The pots and pans, the 14 pot percolator, because we're doing for a group, right? Whereas on them trips, I could be self-sufficient myself. I'll gladly cook my own coffee. I'll gladly cook my own fish. I'll gladly cook my own meals, breakfast, everything every day, and everybody do it. You know what I mean?
That's the traditional way of doing it, right? I mean, people used to have a wanigan, and the wanigan contained your kitchen and everything associated with the kitchen, and some food in it, right?
Yep.
And you've just got a pack that's easier to carry than a wanigan, because a wanigan is heavier than a pack and an ungodly thing to have to carry. So I love wanigans. They're beautiful. If you've ever carried one,
No,
I think it's crazy.
yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
Chest on our back.
It's a wooden chest that you carry, usually with a top line.
Yeah.
And I think it's bananas. I mean, it's beautiful. It's charismatic. It's that sort of old style of
The Voyageur kind of thing.
Yeah. But I think in this day and age, it's just daft. You know, you can spend money on a lighter canoe, and then you're gonna, bring this
Yeah.
ungodly hunk of wood that's just terrible on a portage. You know,
Yeah.
it's nice to sit
Grandpa's
on.
old sea
It's nice
chair.
to sit on. It's a nice chair. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Fjallraven makes a backpack that turns into a chair as well, and it's a lot lighter than that.
Is that a fact? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Stubben, you can sit on it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah, it was designed more for like ice fishing, right? So you're sitting there next to a hole, sit on the. Mike Morton used to have one, but he sold it.
Oh, I have to
I've
look for that. That's interesting.
oh,
I've never heard of such a thing.
I've had a yen for one for years, but they're expensive, and you have to spend like an extra $40 just for the side pouches.
Yeah, I've got enough packs that I don't need to buy another one. So
Yeah, I don't have a lot of packs. Like I've got like a Dayrock Scout by Hidden Woodsman, and then I've got like a big sort of somewhere I've got that U.S. Marine Corps bag, but it's in terrible condition and it's all broken and stuff, so I don't really use it. And I've got like a 3-day, like a North Face backpacker type of bag.
Mhm.
That's pretty much it. Oh, and I've got a hunting sort of a really silent hunting day bag, which is terrible for bushcraft. It was in some of my earlier 2018 videos, I think, where I was just sort of sitting in the snow and making tea or whatever. It's a nice bag. It's a beautiful bag, but it really is a hunting bag rather than a bushcraft bag. Like the whole back of it opens out so that you can like stick a leg in there and then strap it in after you've successfully downed an animal, wrapped it in cheesecloth kind of thing. And it was expensive. It was an Eberl stock, Eberly stock. I don't know how the hell you pronounce it. Never have. An X2, I think it's called. But like, I don't have a whole lot of real good bushcraft bags. Even my Dayrock Scout, I can see why people spend the upcharge for the full-on Dayrock, because your straps are padded, whereas on the Dayrock Scout it's like the more budget version, so the straps are not padded. And when I've got that thing full, I can feel that right there.
I bet.
It makes a bit of a difference, even on a Dayrock, like a day bag size. You want those to be padded.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty set for backpacks, except if I want to do something like a through hike, I'm going to need an ultralight backpack, which I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about all I would go for. But I'm not entirely convinced that I want to do a long through hike. So making do with what I've got. I'm not at all attracted to the sort of the bushcraft style of packs. They tend to be sort of a heavier material, sort of canvasy looking.
Yep.
And I can't stand that stuff. It's beautiful, but it all strikes me as needlessly heavy, built to like almost military tolerance. It says, "Oh, I'm going to be crawling under barbed wire on all fours and under gunfire and stuff like that." And I don't need my gear to be able to withstand that kind of abuse. I don't know what obviously I'm camping all wrong if I need a gear that can withstand that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So all my gear is nowhere near as tough as that, as heavy as that, and I've had it for years and years and years. Sometimes something blows out. So I had a nice, beautiful Eureka pack.
Yeah.
Sort of one of those big blue roll top packs, and perfect canoe pack. Had it for years and years and years. And on one trip, on a 7-day trip with my wife last summer, it finally just blew up. Like it literally fell apart all over the place. The grab handles came off, and one of the shoulder straps came out, and I was walking around with it like this on the way out on the portages. Fortunately, a canoe pack is not something you have to sort of wear a lot. You only wear it on the portages. Mostly sits in the canoe. So I finally gave out. So I went out and I bought new stuff, but the stuff I have is all lighter weight. Pardon me. It's all lighter weight. And it's all garishly colored. It's all orange or bright blue or something, or red or something like that. Because I want to see my gear. I don't want to put it down and walk away for a pee and come back. And where the hell is my pack? You know, and people lose gear all the time. And the more earth tones it has, you know, yes, it blends in and looks great in a photograph, but it's harder to find your gear and it's harder for you to be found if you're lost. So I like kind of garishly colored gear, which I know sort of flies in the face of most sort of bushcraft aesthetics, but I don't see the wisdom in it. I just see the beauty in it.
That's legit. And I like what Nate Muskoka said here. He has a Duluth pack. He loves it, but it's costly on his back.
Yeah. Now, if you know Nate, Nate's a big strapping guy, big square-shouldered kind of guy. If that pack is so hurts him, it would kill me.
And then look what Hawaii Volcano Squad says. After escrow closes and I move up the volcano, I'm going to fill a rucksack with rocks for a daily walk through the rainforest. So he's obviously living a basic training kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Martin, what kind of canoe pack do you have?
I'll be right back, guys.
Sure. Right now I have the Eureka packs, the Eureka roll top canoe packs. They're kind of a plasticky, vinyl-y, weird fabric.
Like they're dry bags, right? That same.
But they're dry bags. They're roll top dry bags. So you don't have to line them with a plastic liner or anything like that. And they have good grab handles, and they have nice padding over the shoulders, and they've got a nice padded waist belt. The old one didn't have a padded waist belt. It had just a belt that felt like a seat belt in a car. This one is nicely padded and much more comfortable. And I've got two of them, his and hers, one for me, one for my wife. So they're both the smaller ones, the 75-liter ones. Yep. They sell a much bigger one that's 115 liters. But I find that when that one is full, I can barely carry it. I stagger under its weight, and I bring more than I should. I pack a lot of fears in that one. So I don't use that one. I use the 75-liter now.
Oh yeah.
Can't fit as many of my fears in my pack.
Because I've got an old Ostrom Outdoors canoe pack.
Those are good though. Those are really nice packs.
135-liter, the one I have, I believe.
Yeah.
I never have it filled to capacity, right?
Yeah, you're 1.5 feet taller than me though, so.
Yeah, it's you know what? I've had that thing for probably over 25 years as well.
Yeah.
And it has never, touch wood, has never ever popped a stitch.
Yeah, they were great. I remember the Ostrom packs.
I've had it loaded down, and it's got an interior dry bag that that I use to keep all my gear dry in it. But that pack, I'll tell you, the day that thing is done, I'll probably cry, because I've gone through all these other packs that are back in the day, buying the cheaper ones. Yeah, it's only $99, right? And I buy this thing. Me, my dad, and my buddy bought the same pack the one year for a trip, and all three of them went back after the trip. Handle ripped off, strap pulled off. Every one of us had something wrong with them. And then I go, you know what? I went to a canoe show, and I ended up buying one of these Ostrom packs, and I couldn't believe I spent like $385 for a canoe pack, right? Back then.
That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, but you know
right now, but yeah.
You know what though? I would have had to buy 20 of the other ones at $99 to get me to where I am today, 25 years later, with a pack that still has not popped a stitch.
Yeah, well, your pack might outlive you. Mine will definitely not. I mean, the Eureka pack that I have is going to last me many years, but it'll give out just like the last one did eventually. But it's just not going to give out soon. I mean, the other one, I don't want to speak ill of the last pack I had, because honestly, we abused the hell out of it. I mean, I would just drop it, into the canoe. Like, sometimes very often you're on the shore and your canoe is in the water, so it's lower than your feet. And you don't want to bend over in half with a heavy pack. So you just lean over and just drop the pack into the canoe. Boom, and that's not good for the pack, and very often you're trying to lift it up and you can't reach the grab handle. So you just grab it by one strap and you heave it up. And so there's an enormous load on just, 1 or 2 points. And that's not good for the pack. Yeah, I do that all the time. That's not really the most delicate use of that pack.
Right.
And the other thing is, my wife used to use it as a beanbag chair. When we were in camp, we'd empty it, and then it'd be filled with air, and then she'd roll it down and cinch it down. So now it's a giant balloon, and she'd sit on it like a beanbag chair, or lean on it like as a backrest, right? Definitely against all recommended usage, right? So I am not surprised that we beat the crap out of it and it finally failed all at once. It was to be expected.
Just want to answer Brandon's question here. The pack is an Ostrom Outdoors. The unfortunate part is Ostrom Outdoors no longer makes packs. They're out of business. Bill Ostrom, he tried to sell the business when he was ready to retire and couldn't find a suitable buyer, so he just closed the business up. Now, I do know that Andy Baxter, who is a good friend of Kevin Callan, he is now producing some Ostrom type bags because I guess he's friends with Bill Ostrom. But I don't think he's into doing the canoe packs yet. So if you ever go to a flea market or a yard sale and you see something that's labeled Ostrom Outdoors, snag it up. Snag it up, because if I get out to them places or like a yard sale or something and I see one, I'm snagging it up, man, because they are that good of a quality.
Martin, Simon found the link to that Stubben, the Fjallraven Stubben.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
That's one you can sit on.
All right, let me look at that.
Oh, and he also found the link for a Burla stock, maybe my hunting bag. I guess it's a Burla stock. I've never known how to pronounce that.
That Steuben pack, that is expensive, $300.
Yeah, and that's before you add the 40 odd or 45 for the side pockets.
Now, how are you able to sit on this? Like, I'm looking at the illustrations.
It's got an internal frame.
Oh,
It's designed it's essentially a stool you put on your back.
right.
I don't know if Mike Morton is still on, but he had said that he had one and he sold it. He found it wasn't that comfortable. I think I don't quite remember why he sold it, or it's heavy or something, but he sold it on.
Yeah, that would be heavy. I mean, it would have to be heavy. If it could support your weight, it would have to have enough structure in it. Yeah, considerable weight.
Yeah, I like Fjallraven. It's probably my favorite outdoorsy brand. I have a certain amount of attraction also for like Patagonia, because I feel that I like a lot of what that company does behind the scenes. But that Stubben bag might just be something that I like from afar until like I make a lot more money in life. Especially right now, because as you guys know, I'm not gigging, right? My band's not playing, so I'm out like $1,500 a month, and that is the money that goes into non-house stuff, But yeah, it's like some things are nice to have, some things are kind of needs. You need a good bag. You don't need the Stubben. That's a nice to have.
Yeah. I'm just laughing at a comment here from Nate. He says,
"I'm beyond bring that up."
Oh, okay, Go ahead, bring it up. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm beyond hard on my gear, so sometimes a little extra weight is worth the durability / longevity. I don't ever not throw my bag from above into my boat.
Well, I try to lower it in, and I've been camping with Nate before, winter camping, and I can attest that he's a big strapping fellow and he's very strong, and so I feel very good if he drops his stuff in his back and throws it and stuff like that out of
then
fatigue.
You can do the same damn thing.
Then I feel much better, more justified.
One big difference though, if he breaks his gear, he has a discount. Whereas you don't, Martin.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Interesting story. I almost lost my spot device on this trip.
Oh, really?
I was coming out yesterday and got to the end of this portage that was just like thick with mosquitoes, right? Thank God for a head net.
Yeah.
But it was the entrance, or this portage had like a beaver slide right at the end, right? So I loaded my canoe on the upper part, and then I dragged it, and the back of the canoe kind of like boom, did this little drop off the little ledge, and I must have had my spot device sitting on top of my backpack in the back of the canoe. So I start paddling, and poor me and Molly were still swatting mosquitoes as we're starting to paddle across the lake. And I go, I want to check the tracking on my spot device, right? Make sure it's on, right? Because I was doing the mapping. which I'm still trying to find, by the way. And I'm looking and I can't find this thing. So I pull over to shore and I'm standing in water up to my knees and I'm like digging through everything. It's like, I wonder if that thing fell off on the portage. I went back and sure enough, it was sitting right where the canoe fell off the edge. And it was still beeping with the tracking. It's like, holy crap, man. So I saved that piece of gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, Dennis. So I think you've been canoe tripping for a while. So you probably started canoe tripping before things like InReach and those Garmin things and spot devices came into existence. I was, and we never used them, and I still don't use them as a result. Because I've never gotten into the habit. And when my wife and I started canoe tripping together, not only did those products not exist, but smartphones didn't exist. And where we would camp, typically there was no cell coverage. In fact, it's really funny. I went camping with David Bain, who you know, just this past weekend, and we went to a system of lakes that's on Crown land. There's now phone service, so we could actually, reach the outside world if something happened there. But in previous years, when my wife and I went there, there was nothing. Now I'm completely comfortable with doing that. I'm not worried. I think it's because I'm of that generation that grew up with that. But having purchased a device like that and used it, do you now feel it's essential? If you didn't have it, would you feel sort of like, uh-oh, maybe I shouldn't go? Or like do you think it's a must-have now?
I don't know. I can't speak for other people, but I can tell you the exact reason why I bought mine. And I kind of chomped at the bullet for the group of guys that I go canoeing with. We're all getting up there. My regular canoe partner, he's like 61 years old now, right? His brother-in-law is a fella. He's like probably 62, 63, somewhere in that area. But he suffered a pretty major heart attack a couple of years back. And just the fact that, we're all getting up there. I'm 55 years old, and you never know what could happen out there. And to me, it's peace of mind, right?
Right, yeah.
And I set it up so that every night when we get to our campsite, I hit that button that just tells my wife we're okay. If she don't get a message, then she knows something's wrong.
Right. Okay.
I'm So it's just peace of mind that if one of me, you, or you, if one of us has a mishap out there, and it has happened last year. Look at my buddy, had himself stitches around the eye, right?
Yeah.
Had that been something more major, we got that safety net there, right? And that's the only reason why I really bought it. I don't need the one where I could text and send messages and stuff like that to reach. Or the
Spot?
The Spot X, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need that ability. I just want that safeguard that if something happens out there, one of us has a heart attack, we have a broken leg, get attacked by a bear, and we're all mauled. You got that safeguard, right?
Yeah. I'm just so I know the reasons why to have it, and I should probably have it because I have an anaphylactic reaction to bee and wasp stings. As does my wife. So I'm one bee sting away from kaput. So I carry EpiPens and Benadryl and all that. In fact, I carry 2 EpiPens and lots of Benadryl just when I go out on my own or with somebody or with my wife. So I know all the reasons why I ought to have one. It makes sense to me. But I'm just wondering psychologically, if it was just you going out solo, would you feel you had to have it? Would you feel naked? If you didn't have it, if it broke, would you say, oh, I better wait until I get one that's working? Or just how essential is it in your own, you're not speaking for other people. I'm just asking you personally. Someone
personally, I probably wouldn't go solo canoeing without it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So especially for solo, like I say, you never know, man. it's just that safeguard, that last ditch effort of getting your ass out of there if you need to.
If you have a heart attack in the bush, I think you're pretty much done. So whether you have a cell phone or anything, maybe you'll survive, but if you don't get help,
that's the thing. You need to get the help.
Well, it's not only that. Like, say for instance, if you did drop and you drop of a heart attack. I'm just going to throw that out there, hypothetically speaking. You drop of a heart attack, you die on the spot. If your spot device, your last signal was sent from the campsite that you're camped at least they're going to find your body. You know what I mean?
At least your loved ones get closure.
Yeah, there's closure, right? Unless the bear has found you and dragged you off into the bush somewhere.
It doesn't have to be life and death, though. I've hurt my back on a canoe trip, as did my wife. So if I was on a solo canoe trip and I injured my back, I just pulled my back and I'm stuck. I might need extraction. I might not be able to get out under my own power. You don't have to break a leg or anything like that. You just have to sprain an ankle. Or I know someone who went on a solo river trip. He was going to get picked up at the other end, and people had to go looking for him because his canoe was found downriver because he wiped out in a rapid, and his canoe just went down there. And by the time he got himself and what gear he could salvage out, he was camping out in the woods. And he had no way of contacting anybody. And a canoe trip that takes you 3-4 days, could take you weeks on foot. Crashing through the bush, and unless you're a really good navigator and you have the tools that you need to navigate, map and compass and some navigation skills, you're really screwed. Unless you have a GPS, that might make it a little easier, but you still got to crash through the bush, right? Yeah. Just imagine you lose your canoe on a canoe trip. That happens to people, right? That'd be kind of nice to be able to say, listen, I had a mishap. I lost my canoe, and I'm stuck in the bush, and I got to march out of here. Can someone, send help? Someone come by canoe or a helicopter or anything, right? So it doesn't have to be life and death. It could just be I'm stranded.
But there is still that aspect where we're all kind of getting up there. So you can have a bloody stroke sitting in the bush.
Which have a stroke sitting in your living room. I mean,
but if I just have a stroke in my living room, there are 3 other people here who will know what to do. Well, who will probably figure out what to do. Whereas if I have a stroke in the bush, because I know what you're saying, Hawaii, like the spot may not save you, but at least they'll be able to find you or me or whatever.
Hypothermia. I mean, that's one of the worst things that happens to people. It's one of the most severe things that can happen to you, and it's probably the most common thing.
It can even happen to you in the summer.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's usually when it happens. That's when most people are out there. Very few people get hypothermia in winter because there's almost nobody out there in the winter. Yeah. But I mean, hypothermia in summer happens to people all the time. They get caught in a rain, and it doesn't dry out. And it's it's just a few degrees colder than they're used to, and they're soaking wet, and the air is damp and cold, and they can't get a fire going, and they're screwed. You're going to die in about 24 hours unless you get help, right? So you weren't injured. You didn't lose a critical piece of gear. You're not lost or anything like that. You didn't have a heart attack. You didn't get mauled by a bear. You just got freaking wet, right? And you need extraction. So, I mean, I see all the reasons why you should have one. I know why. I know all the reasons why I should have one. I've just really been cheap and not getting one. And I started all of this before such technology existed, so it seems to me to be surplus to requirements now.
If I could tell you that if you call for extraction, if you call 911 for the bush in Hawaii, they'll send a helicopter for you. They'll give you a ticket that you have to show up in court for, and they'll give you a bill for thousands of dollars.
I'd pay it 10 times over if I needed it. Yeah, I mean, I don't care what it would cost, right? It would. You're trading your life for it. No. I mean, that's why it's irrational for me to say I think it's expensive to buy this and there's a subscription fee and all. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, I would give anything on the occasion that I need it. I would give everything that I own to get out of there when I need it. And so it doesn't make sense to not buy it.
Hospital bills.
Sorry?
Yeah. We don't have your kind of hospital bills though, Hawaii, right? We don't have to deal with that kind of hospital bill up here.
No, with
if you were dying in the bush, you wouldn't care about the hospital bill. Yeah. You'd say, just like if you're dying at home, right, and you need to be taken to a hospital, you get taken to a hospital and you deal with the bill later. You don't say, oh, don't take me to the hospital. I can't afford the bill.
Right. Well, the government will pick up the tab in the end when you can't pay for it. But
Yeah, that's true.
Presumably, yeah.
But a Canadian an ambulance ride in Montreal, Quebec is about $129, which I thought was expensive until I mentioned that to a couple of American friends.
well, how much is a helicopter extraction in Canada?
I'm sure it's a fortune.
Yeah, it's a fortune. I know. Well, my brother is a helicopter pilot, but I mean he's military. So, but I read somewhere I was in British Columbia, and this is probably very different across provinces, that if you get extracted because you did something stupid, like you went outside of the fence on a ski hill or something, then you are completely responsible for all of the costs. But if you just fell and broke your ankle or something that's not your fault, then it gets covered by Medicare or whatever they call it out there. I'm not going to go to the mats on that. It's something I read a long ass time ago.
Well, I don't know how much they charge for extractions around Hawaii, but I can tell you how much they charge for an air ambulance just from the hospital here to the hospital in Honolulu, because the air ambulance company forgot to send the bill to my health insurance company and sent it to me instead. So I get this bill for $25,000, and it's like,
holy crap!
I'm like, what? So after they sent that to me 3 or 4 times, including a collections letter, I said, well, did you guys bother to bill my insurance company, or did you just send the bill to me? And they're like, oops. So they got it from the insurance company, but the poor insurance company got, a huge bill. So it's you need to be aware of where you're going and your surroundings, and have a plan to get out and let somebody know where you're going.
That's actually very important.
You go into the jungle around here, you'll get turned around, and even your compass may not be too useful, because everything's igneous rock here, and it all has magnetic properties. So your compass may not necessarily be pointing true north if you have all this magnetic rock from the volcano. And the forest the jungle and the cloud rainforest, it all looks the same no matter what direction you're pointing, and especially if it's too thick to see anything that resembles the sun. So you just have to have a pretty good sense of where you are before you go into the jungle, because people will read a book like Big Island Revealed or something, and they'll go on known hiking paths and just take a wrong turn and fall off a cliff, break their leg, and then it'll take like 100 people searching for 2 weeks to find them.
Yeah, I could see that. We're actually after 11 o'clock, but I have 2 questions for Dennis, and then we'll close it down. By the way, Hawaii, thanks for adding to the conversation, even though you came in really late. Those are some good points.
I was here when you started, but I had to eat dinner. So
okay. Brendan Cosman is asking, Dennis, he's not sure about he's talking about those spots like you've got, how durable they are, but are there any concerns with if it gets broken somehow, and people think that something's wrong because it's not, I guess you don't check in or it doesn't give the signal.
Yeah, I guess that's always a concern. Like, it could happen. The one I've got there, I don't know if it's really handy here. As a matter of fact, it is. But it's got rubber casing around the outside and stuff that if you drop it, it'll bounce off the ground.
So they're pretty robust.
Yeah, and that's the device I've got there. But
okay, now a question from me is, in a year, how much generally is the outlay? Because I imagine there's a purchase price, and then there's a monthly subscription.
Yeah, when I purchased it, it happened to be they had. I'm just gonna say it was around $130, but they had a half price when I bought it at Sales Superstore, right? And then your first year activation, they have a they have a deal on, right? Because obviously they want to hook you.
Yep.
But I think it's like about $100 a year to keep it going. And the one thing I do want to point out too, when it comes to extractions and stuff like that, you can actually buy insurance on the if you have an emergency. So if you have to be extracted, right?
Okay.
So the guys that I camp with, what they don't know is when I do my food shopping and stuff, and I buy the insurance, it gets split 4 or 6 ways.
Okay.
We have that option that if somebody has to be medically extracted, it's covered under insurance, so we're not getting a $30,000 or $40,000 bill.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's very smart.
Yeah. So, like I say, I chomped the bullet by doing the initial purchase of this thing for myself, but for the group, because if you're out and something happens to somebody, it's no longer that person's responsibility. It's everybody's problem.
Yeah, I get that.
Right. So it's a safeguard for, protecting all of us on one of these trips. So,
okay, that's good to know, because I mean, to me, if even as when we got a little dark there, even if something happens to me out in the bush and I don't make it, my family being able to find me that fast rather than looking for a week or two makes the money worthwhile.
Yep.
To me,
There is one thing I wish this company would do, though. Well, 2 things: make their subscriptions a little cheaper. They probably sell more of them, right? But the other one is make them easier to set up.
Oh, really?
They're not super simple to set up, especially if you only set it up like once or twice a year and you're not used to the routine.
Right.
But, to get in there and set up all the messaging and stuff like that, because you could program your different message buttons. Say, okay, I'm at my campsite, I'm safe and sound. And there's another one that's you could set to say something else, and then you have your emergency buttons, right?
Yep.
So, like, what I do is every time I get to a campsite, I push the one button that says the OK button here.
Yep.
And basically it says, I'm at my camp, everything's good. And that's my wife's assurance, knowing that this is where we are. And the tracker will show her on a map, the Google map, exactly where we are.
So does she get a text message then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It comes across as a text message with a little link. You push and it takes you to Google Map, and you open it up as the map and it shows you exactly where you are. So it's nice. Yep.
So maybe once I'm gigging again, I'll take once I can actually hit the bush, I'll take a look at that then, because I think that would be the peace of mind aspect is.
What's the advantage of that compared to just a cell phone?
In Northern Ontario, where I do a lot of canoeing, you're out of cell range.
So it's satellite?
Yeah, this works through satellite. So it picks up a satellite and it shoots that beacon. So that's why you can't send text messages with this particular unit. It's basically set up to just bounce one message, right? And the message is already pre-set up on your computer on their database. So, yeah.
Okay. And your monthly charge just essentially pays for that. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, by the year subscription, it's a lot cheaper. I will point out, though, if you have somebody that has one of these, you can borrow it. And you can set up all the messaging and stuff for yourself, and you can buy the insurance yourself.
Right.
It's not dedicated to one person specific. So, like, say, for instance, if you were a buddy of mine, you said, hey, man, can I borrow your spot? Yeah. You go online, you set it up to you, and off you go. Right? So.
Yeah. Okay, so you set it up online. You don't have to be, like, messing with the buttons.
Yeah. Find Me Spot is the website to do it all through.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so it is currently 11:15. So we're late, but the conversation was way more interesting than I thought it was going to be when I started tonight. So thanks for coming on, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jess. Had a good time.
Thanks to everyone in the side chat for hanging out. And I hope I'll see you guys next week.
Nice meeting you there, Hawaii.
Yeah. Nice having you on. Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and let's see each other at the end of this whole thing.
Martin, I'm going to message you this week, okay? About next
week. Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
Good night.
Aloha.